When most people think about negotiation, they think, sitting across the table from the person that you're negotiating with,
Right.
and, striking a deal and,
Right.
offer and counteroffer and all of those things. And in reality, the negotiation is already over 2/3 over by the time you ever get to that point.
Really?
And this is a concept called the 3 dimensions of negotiation.
Okay.
And the actual conversation, the deal, the conversation that you have with the other party is actually the 3rd dimension. It comes last.
Really?
There's a lot that goes into a negotiation before you ever sit across the table from someone.
Okay.
And those are the other 2 dimensions.
Okay.
And the 3 dimensions are the deal setup, the
Okay.
deal structure, and the deal discussion, or the conversation.
Okay.
Okay? So let's handle them in order. The deal setup has to do with all of the environmental factors. Who are you negotiating with?
Right.
What are you negotiating about?
Sure.
How much do you know about them? What is it exactly that you want? It's all of
Right.
those preparatory factors
Which make a huge difference,
which make
actually.
a massive difference. So, the setup is you're essentially making sure that the environment of the negotiation is conducive to you getting what you want out of the conversation.
I can see that.
And, we'll talk a little bit later about the role of environment. And it's a term called structural determination.
Right,
but
okay.
the more environmental factors you have going into in your favor going
Okay.
into a conversation, the better the negotiation tends to go.
Okay.
Okay? So step 1 is the setup.
Okay.
You're setting the environment, setting the stage. The second dimension is what's called the deal structure. And that has to do with what you, going in, what is your plan? What are you proposing? What are
Okay.
the alternatives?
Okay.
What is the other party's next best alternative?
Right.
What's your next best
Right.
alternative?
Okay.
And how exactly do you plan going into the conversation what you're going to propose?
If
when?
this happens,
Yes.
okay.
What can you trade off? What's more important? What's less important? And at what point are you willing to walk away from the deal?
Yeah.
And the better that you can structure the deal in a way that, A, they're likely to accept, and B, is going to lead to what you want, the better the actual conversation is going to go.
Okay.
And then the actual discussion is the 3rd dimension, where you actually sit down with the other party and go back and forth, and then try to find that area of common ground
Right.
where you can
You're
both
happy.
get something that you want.
Okay.
So, it's important that to understand that the environmental factors are almost more important than the conversation.
Now, I understand about finding out who the person is because I've definitely had experience negotiating with people, say, from the US, where this is a culture where, in general, we're not really used to haggling a lot. And negotiating with someone from another country, like I've had some people from the Middle East, I've had some people from South America coming in to buy things where it's a part of their culture. And I think, first of all, I had to not take it personally. Like, it's not an insult. It's just part of the way of life there.
Yep.
And so learning how to do that. So I understand that part of the environment. But are you talking about, like, are we doing it in a coffee shop or a boardroom? That kind of thing?
That's part of it. But it's also the what are you discussing and how important is it to them to get a good deal? How is it important for you to get a deal? And when you're talking about it and with whom you're talking about it makes a really big difference.
So if you're setting the environmental factors in a way that you think is going to be favorable for you, and they're also a good negotiator, do you think that ever is like contrasting interests?
It's well, not necessarily contrasting interests, but
is it like a dance kind of?
a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
When you're actually getting up to the point
Right.
of having the actual discussion.
Right.
The setting and the tone and who leads the conversation, all of those things are really important because it sets the tone for the deal. I mean, if you go, and I'm really not a big fan of Donald Trump for very many reasons, but if you look at how he would do the actual setup, you're probably going to be negotiating in his office, across his desk, surrounded by, the symbols of his power and influence.
Okay.
And that plays a huge role in the deals that he ends up getting.
I see what you mean.
Because he only deals with people who are willing to give him what he wants.
Right, okay, I see.
So it's those environmental factors that are hugely important because they set the entire tone and the tenor and the way of conversation.
Of your new relationship.
Yes,
Got
exactly.
it. Okay.
So when you're going through it, and a sale is just a negotiation, always. So if you pay attention to the setup, if you pay attention to the structure, what you'll find is that the actual conversation, the discussion,
right,
goes much better.
Okay.
Because you have all of these environmental or structural factors that are helping you get a good deal.
Got it. Okay.
And the more you pay attention to the 3 dimensions of negotiation as you're negotiating, the better deals you'll get.
Cool.